You know the book, The Secret? When I first read that book, I hated it. I had this idea that all I had to do was visualize success, was see myself succeeding, and it would manifest. It would attract that success. For me, I'm a very hard worker, so that idea was insulting. And it took about 5 years from when I first read it to when I actually started to look at the science behind visualization, the science behind affirmations, behind manifestations. And now we're going to answer the old question. Does visualization actually work, or is it all just a bunch of hocus pocus? Is there science behind it, or is it pure woo-woo? That's what we're answering today.
Over 200 different cognitive biases.
You've got to become the person that will.
Welcome to Network Marketing Personal Development here on Finding Leadership Within, where you learn to grow yourself and grow your business. My name is Gabriel Klingman, author of the book Opportunity Switch, author of the book The $1 Million Employee, and co-founder of Finding Leadership Within and this channel. And today we're going to talk about visualization. Does visualization actually work? But before we do that, if you want up-to-date training on all of the latest techniques, the latest interviews with the top earners in network marketing, then go right ahead, hit that subscribe button below. Let me know you have found the channel. Let's get started. In order to understand whether visualization actually works or whether it's complete and utter bullcrap, we have to understand the brain. We have to understand how the brain encodes memories first off, then how it retrieves those memories, and then finally, we're going to dive into actual visualization. Let's look at the science and let's see if these principles actually line up. But first, there are two ground rules, two basic things that we have to know about the brain. The first is that the brain is a mechanism. It is a machine, right? It is there to orient you towards whatever goal you set in front of it. That is the purpose of our brain. The second is that our brain is incredibly efficient, unbelievably efficient. It is always looking for whatever is the shortest and fastest path to the goal that you have set. And the fact it has to be this efficient. It can't process all of the stimuli that we get every single day. There are tons of studies that show every single day our brain has to process over 20,000 different stimuli that come in our environment. So the brain has to be efficient. It is necessary. Your brain can't process all of the stimuli every single day, every single time. So let's jump right into point number one. How does the brain actually encode experiences? Now, this question has a hidden assumption, and the assumption is that the brain encodes experiences, and that assumption is actually false. We all think that because what we remember are experiences, that is what our brains are actually recording. But the reality is our brains don't know what the experience was. Our brains simply know the different parts that made up the whole.
Inconceivable.
Our brains are kind of like computers, and our experiences are kind of like images that show up on the screen. Now, I'm going to really simplify this down just so that we can see this comparison. When you see an image on a screen, what is actually there is just a bunch of ones and zeros. It's a unique combination that is then sent to the monitor, and the monitor will translate that so that we can see and understand it. What we see is an image because we're seeing it through a monitor. What the monitor received was a bunch of ones and zeros. And if you change any combination of those ones and zeros, you can change the image. You see the end result, but the computer only got to that end result by recording ones and zeros in a unique and special combination. Now, our brains are very similar. Our brains encode the experiences, not as ones and zeros, but through our senses, through our sight, the sound, smell, taste, and then touch. If you change any number of those 5 senses that you encode, the sight, the sound, the smell, the taste, or the touch, then you can change the encoding of the actual experience in your brain. Now, this is just like a computer. If you change any number of ones or zeros, any combination or sequence, then it'll change the actual image itself. So that's how our brain encodes our experiences, through sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. It doesn't encode the actual full experiences. It encodes the different pieces, the units that make up the whole, and then gives it to a different part of our brain to interpret. Now that we have that covered, let's go on to part 2. How does the brain remember experiences? Just like a computer, when you open an image on the screen, what you don't see is a bunch of ones and zeros. What you see is the interpretation of those ones and zeros, the meaning, what they all compiled together, what that means for you. And you see the image. Now, our brain remembers experiences in the same way. Remember, every experience was encoded through the 5 senses, through our sight, our sound, our smell, our taste, and our touch. So when we remember an experience, we aren't remembering those individual things that happened. Oh, here was the smell, here was the sight, here was the sound. No, we remember the interpretation or the full meaning of that. That is because those experiences were sent through 2 other parts of our brain, our thalamus and our amygdala, and those created that interpretation or that meaning that we see in the end. What does all of this have to do with visualization? Well, our brains don't know the difference from what we experience in reality and what we see in our mind. What we experience in our outer reality and what we see in our inner reality, the brain doesn't know the difference. And it's because of something called mirror neurons. There's tons of studies to show how mirror neurons can take what we experience in our brains and actually change our physical body, our physical reality. And one of my favorites was done by this university. And they took a handful of college students and separated them into 3 different categories. You had one that they put through an intense, rigorous workout routine. You had a second group that they said do absolutely nothing. The third group, they said visualize yourself going through this very specific and intense workout routine, the same specific and intense workout routine that the first group did. But remember, the first group was actually doing it. The third group was simply visualizing themselves going through it. They were using the 5 senses, the sight, the sound, the smell, the taste, and the touch of the workout, but they weren't actually doing it. And what happened at the end of 6 weeks is the heavy lifting team, right? That first group that actually did the workout, they gained 36 pounds of muscle. The second group that did nothing, they gained absolutely no muscle. No surprise. But what's wild is that third group, the group that simply visualized themselves going through the workouts, they gained 32 pounds of muscle. That's 32 pounds of muscle without getting off your butt. That is wild. Your brain literally doesn't know the difference from what it experiences in the outer reality and what it experiences in your inner reality. This is why professional athletes will spend hours a day studying other athletes. They'll watch them go through these intense plays, these game-winning plays over and over and over again. They're encoding these experiences into their brain. It's the same reason why bodybuilders will watch other bodybuilders work out. They're encoding those experiences into their brain. Now, to answer the question we've all been waiting for, does visualization actually work? The answer is yes, but with a caveat. When I first read The Secret, like I said at the beginning of this video, I was offended because what I interpreted that as was you just need to sit back on your ass and just visualize success. If you want something, picture it in your brain enough and the universe will give it to you. That was the idea, and that was my interpretation of that book. And like I said, I was offended by that idea. Now, visualization is not that. In fact, that is just pure laziness. Visualization does work, but it doesn't work like that. Now, let me show you how visualization works through an example. Let's say you want to get better at public speaking. You're really great one-on-one, or maybe even one on 2 or 3 of your really close friends, but the second there gets a crowd, you choke up. You get really nervous, you get terrified, and all of a sudden something inside of you changes and you can't communicate well. This is a perfect opportunity to use visualization to change your outcome. The first thing you're going to want to do is close your eyes. I want you to visualize yourself talking one-on-one with your friends. You know what this feels like, right? You know what this sounds like. You know what this looks like. I want you to picture that in your mind. And remember, your brain is encoding each experience in those 5 senses: your sights, your sounds, your smells, your tastes, and your touches. So when you are talking one-on-one with a friend, I want you to think and pick apart those 5 senses. What does it look like? Are there any distinct things that you're seeing? Maybe you're seeing them in your head, maybe you're seeing them out in front of you. Then I want you to think about what you hear. Are there voices going inside your head? Do you hear things affirming you or things tearing you down? Do you hear things in your environment? Maybe there's a song playing, maybe it's someone's voice. What do you hear? Then what do you smell? Are there any unique smells associated with these kinds of events, talking one-on-one with your friends? Then taste. Are there any unique tastes, memories of tastes or physical tastes that you have when talking one-on-one? Then I want you to think about the feelings. Are there any physical feelings that you have? Do you have a specific jacket that you wear? Are there specific pants? Are you sitting? Are you standing? Do you have emotional feelings in these moments? Once you have that outlined, then I want you to make one small tweak. I want you to simply change what you visually see out in front of you. Okay, originally you're talking one-on-one with a friend. Now I want you to picture that you're on stage, public speaking. Everything else should be the same. If you're seeing anything in your mind, visually picture that. If you're hearing anything, picture that. Keep every other sense the same, but just change the one visual. You're now feeling as if you're talking one-on-one, but visually, you're imagining yourself on stage talking to a group. This is how visualization works. Just like on a computer, when you change one combination of the ones and zeros, you change the image. Here, we're having the experience of talking one-on-one, and we're changing one of those units that's being encoded. And this is the external visual stimuli that you're experiencing. When you change that one, the entire experience gets re-encoded as a brand new experience in your brain. Why is this important? Because of the ground rules. Remember, your brain is incredibly efficient. It is always looking for the fastest, shortest way to get from point A to point B. If there is a faster way to get there, it will find it. So the more you encode this experience of talking one-on-one, where you feel fine and you can talk confidently and ready, but you're visually thinking about being on stage, right? This is that new experience we've encoded. The more you encode that, then the more likely it is when you actually go on stage, your brain will go to that memory. It will retrieve that experience and say, this is how we need to act in this new social situation. That is the power of visualization. If you want to change a behavior, change an action, change a reaction, change a habit, you can do it through visualization. Simply visualize yourself in the situation, going through the motions as if you were successful. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This was so much fun. I love going deep on these topics. Now, if you got any value from this at all, go right ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you liked this video, hit that like button. And if you have any questions, comments, throw them right in the comment section. I am always looking to have more conversations with more people about these kinds of things. I will be right here next week to help you unleash your potential. Until then, grow yourself, grow your business.